Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Jay Stevens Podcast. This is episode 64, dedicated to a man who scored a career-high 64 points on March 26th, 1974, Mr. Rick Barry. And as always, thank you for listening and downloading to another episode of the podcast. On today's episode, we have Mr. Chris Lebron of the Off the Ball podcast joining me to talk all things NBA basketball, which that is what his podcast is all about. And Chris actually does a good job of going in detail about his podcast, what he is currently doing, a previous podcast that he did, and one thing he's doing currently that possibly sets his podcast apart from other podcasts you or I may listen to. Also, Chris is a New Yorker, so I would feel like I would not be doing my job properly if I did not ask him about the New York Knicks, his favorite basketball team. During our conversation, he takes some jabs at me because I'm a Pacers fan. I take some jabs at him. It's all fun. It's all fun. No love lost. Nobody's hurt in the process or during the whole duration of that conversation. No, nothing like that. Trash talk is a part of sports, and apparently, trash talk is a part of podcasting as well. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy having the guest on as much as doing things solo. Yes, you get to hear other people's ideas, and ultimately, it just enhances and enriches the entire conversation, the entire space of the podcast. So without further ado, I forgot one thing. This was recorded before the Knicks fired Steve Mills as being their president. So that was not one thing I was able to discuss with him or talk to him about just due to the timing of the recording. But the very day and the time when he heard about Steve Mills being fired, he rejoiced. And I would have just loved to just bring that up during our conversation just because I feel like that would have been more enjoyable and would have fit current conversation about New York Knicks basketball in present day. So, now that I got that out of the way, we can get on with the show. Without further ado, let's go ahead and take a trip to New York City, another New Yorker, to listen to my fun conversation with Mr. Chris Lebron, yes, he has two first names, of the Off the Ball podcast. Hey, Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, man, what's going on, brother?
Not much, man. I'm glad you could join me. You have a podcast about basketball. There are podcasts out there about basically anything. If you want to do something just about your life or your job, you can do stuff about that. Why did you start a podcast, and then why did you specifically talk about basketball?
Well, I've dipped into podcasting before, like years back, and I always loved it, but things had happened in life, and I couldn't just really stay on it. But just I would say in the last 6 months, I really got into it really hard, and I love basketball. It's my first love. I've been bouncing the ball since I was since I could walk. So I just absolutely love talking about basketball, and I love to share my opinions and about the game of basketball. I do my own little scouting, with college kids and high school kids. I'm big into the high school scene with kids, and I just love basketball so much. And living in New York, basketball is such a big thing here, so you kind of have to just love basketball here, but it's just a big part of my life, basketball, so I just love talking about it.
Growing up, did you grow up more of a Knicks fan or a Brooklyn Nets fan? I know that they're both up there very close to each other. Which one were you pulled towards when you were younger?
I'm a diehard Knicks fan. Knicks. I bleed blue, through the good years. Obviously, I grew up in the 90s when the Knicks were at their highest, getting to a couple championships and being a perennial playoff threat. So I've been a Knicks fan since the jump. Even I've gone through the good times and the bad times being the Knicks fan, especially the last 20 years. But it's Knicks all the way, man.
We'll get to that in a second. That's what I was just curious about. What side of the fence you were on? Was there ever a chance where some of your buddies tried to make you a Nets fan, or was it always Knicks no matter what?
I grew up once I moved, because I've kind of been, I have a little, I've been a part of like every part of the boroughs in New York. I've lived in each borough and have like connections with each borough here. But once I moved to Staten Island, I realized there's a lot more Nets fans, because where I live in Staten Island, where I used to live in Staten Island, it's close to Jersey, and that's when New Jersey Nets were kind of that's when they were around. So I have a lot of Nets fans, and they would try to convert me, especially during the downtimes. But I'm loyal to my team no matter what.
I like that. I like that. Loyalty is something that is needed right now in America, especially with sports and things like that. Was there ever a time where you thought you would do multiple sports? Like with my podcast, I try to touch on whatever's going on at that point in time. Have you always thought basketball only, or have you ever thought, hey, maybe at some point I'll branch out to talk about other things other than basketball?
I started out, when I started doing this podcast, I started doing everything. But I found myself just really getting into basketball the most, and I found that people like listen to me talk about basketball the most. So I kind of made it, just pretty much just basketball. And since basketball is pretty much there's always something going on, even in the off season. There's so much going on with trades and free agency and the draft. It's a kind of a 24/7, 365 kind of sport. So there's always something to talk about with basketball, whether it's high school, college, and the pros. So I just, like I said, most of my shows I would talk about football, I talk about baseball a little bit, but I found myself talking about basketball the most. So I kind of just said, you know what? Let me just do a strictly basketball podcast, and so far so good.
Yeah, man, I enjoy it. I know you have a lot of guests on, and you even had me on recently, and I'm thinking, okay, he's good. But then when I hear you with other people, it's almost like the same conversations you would have, say, on the playground, if you're all, like, just watching the conversation you would have there, or the barbershop talk. It's the same type of thing. Trade deadline coming up. Playoffs are going to be coming up very, very soon. NBA All-Star games coming up. It sure seems like, and help me out let me know if what I'm saying is true and you feel the same way. It sure seems like the conversations you're having, these are what you have every single day. It's just on a recorded form.
Yeah, it's exactly. You're 100% right. This is how I discuss sports on regular, like when I'm at my job or out talking about with family and friends. This is exactly how I talk. Where I'm at the barbershop talking about hoops. That's how I talk on the podcast. I try to keep it as if it's a regular conversation. I don't try to be too robotic. I've been learning. Especially lately, I've been having guests on, so I've been learning and trying to figure out a way to just to figure out, how I should be. And I just realized at the end of the day, just talk the way you talk regularly with friends and all about basketball. And that's the way I've been doing it. And it's, like I said, it's been working well.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely working well in what you have going right now, and
Thank you.
You're expanding yourself. You're welcome how you're expanding yourself, not just as, say, a podcaster, but so one thing I've learned, this stuff goes into just life in general. I mean, it forces you to listen, forces you to adapt, and it literally forces you to be more of a listening ear than someone that's talking all the time. Growing up, they always say, if you have nothing to say, just be quiet, don't say anything at all. Well, in podcasting, if you have a guest, you have someone on there that has something to say, and you translate that same thing into life. If you're talking to someone, you listen more than normal, because what you're doing with your podcast, it's not just a hobby, it's fun, it's enjoyable. So it's kind of the give and take and things like that. Help us out. I've never been to New York. I hear all about the playground scene, especially in the summertime. You can't really play when it's cold outside. But the playground scene up there, how it's different than it is anywhere in the country. Explain that type of scene to us, as you've been there, living there, and seeing that firsthand.
Man, the New York basketball scene, it's, especially growing up, it was, especially in in each borough has their different types of the way they play basketball. You know, it's you know, you go to the Bronx and it's more, you know, it's physical. It's going to be physical basketball, and each, like I said, each borough has their own thing. You know, you go to Staten Island, it's more of a finesse game. And, you know, you go to, you know, we're famous for, you know, Rucker Park and Dykeman, and there's so many tournaments and celebrities. I mean, Kobe Bryant, you know, rest in peace, you know, he's come to Rucker and absolutely destroyed it. You know, Kevin Durant. You know, we have so many. New York has so many guys that probably haven't even touched the NBA that could play. And, you know, it's crazy how many legends are out here that are just tremendous hoopers. And I've seen so many, you know, tremendous games that probably never been, you know, televised or on tape. That has just been amazing. You know, just growing up, the New York basketball scene is it's something else. It's so special.
Yeah, there's the name when you said like the scene and how there are guys out there that could play the NBA that just don't and choose not to for whatever reason it is. I know the travel is different. You have to be away from your family, your friends, your kids, things of that nature. But the first thing that comes to my mind is a guy that could play in the NBA that did not, but that was basically a playground legend up there is Pee Wee Kirkland. Have you heard people talk about? Now I know he's 74 years old. Now he's older, but do people still talk about him and the legend that he is up there in that area?
Oh yeah, man, he's big out here. I mean, I actually just watched a YouTube video not too long about him, and just the legend he is, man. People still talk about him. You know, he's big out here, especially you know, in the city and the Bronx, you know, in Brooklyn. That's where the big basketball scenes over there, Queens, you know. Yeah, he's a legend. He's a legend for sure.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that I was not. Neither you or I was able to watch him when he was actually playing at his best. But we can go on YouTube, like you've mentioned, and other people put out documentaries and see exactly how good he was. And his interviews, I've seen him in interviews before. It's different. And you can just see like the passion that he has, not just for basketball, but just for the entire area itself. He's not playing for himself. Yeah, he is. There's pride involved, but he's playing for the area and representing his family, and he definitely does that very, very, very well. Would have been fun to see him play in the NBA, but you know, but stuff like that doesn't always happen. A lot of the guys, and I do understand, a lot of those guys want to play on the playground and want to stay at home where they've always been, because the NBA lifestyle, man, it's different. It's way different. Man, it's way different than anybody expects. You think, oh, you're just hooping for 82 games. Nah, you got travel. You have late flights. You have hotel stays. You're rarely in your bed half the time. All-Star break. If you're playing All-Star weekend, you're going to wherever the city is. You may get a couple days off before your next game. So it's not just like all these guys are able to just play 82 games. Yeah, 82 games is great. But that travel, the running up and down the court, taking care of your body, that does take a toll on you, not just physically, but mentally as well. Let's move towards Knicks basketball. You're a Knicks fan. Yeah, I like the laugh. So we're going to have fun with this.
Oh, yeah.
You're a Knicks fan. At one time, they were in the NBA Finals in 1999 against the Spurs, where they got beat during that series. I don't like you guys because in that series, the Eastern Conference Finals, Larry Johnson hit that 4-point shot. I still don't like it. That picture. Every time I see it, it's still in my head. And I'm like, dude, just what are you doing? But please, from your perspective, I'm going to back away. I'm going to try my best not to laugh. Explain the state of New York Knicks basketball to everyone listening.
The state of New York basketball. Man, where do I start? I mean, there's so many ways you can go with this. I mean, it's been rough, to say the least. I mean, since their last finals appearance in '99, it's a couple playoff appearances here, but I mean, to have only one playoff win. playoff series win against Boston in 2012. I mean, that's all we have to show. And just a lot of false hope. There's so many off seasons where you're supposed to, get this guy and get this guy or get that guy or make it, and just a lot of heartache, and then I think this past off season was probably the most gut wrenching, knowing, because there was finally hope. There was finally, when we traded Porzingis, it was like, okay, we're trading him, but there's a bigger picture. We're gonna get 2 free agents, and then little by little, it's starting to snowball, and it's just like, oh my God, this might not happen. And you're hearing Kyrie wants to go to Brooklyn, and then when the free agency started, and you're hearing the rumors that Kevin Durant's going to Brooklyn, it was like the final it was the most painful thing. And then the draft lottery, all the lotteries that we're supposed to get first pick and we don't, and then we just the bad draft selections, and the management has just been absolutely putrid. It's so bad how bad our management has been. And then the Phil Jackson debacle, and Isaiah Thomas, and the coaches, Derek Fisher and Jeff Hornacek, and Fizdale recently. It's been rough. It's been really rough with the Knicks, man. I don't know if there's any hope coming up, man. And it's just been bad.
I want to give you mentioned a couple coaches that I was not even thinking about at the time, but when they brought in Derek Fisher and they brought in Jeff Hornacek, it didn't seem like they were basketball moves. It seemed like it was more guys that Phil Jackson could bring in that he coached against, that he had great respect for. It didn't. And Derek Fisher, he's a good. Not saying he's a bad guy. He was a good basketball player. He was a starter. I think he won 4 or 5 rings with the Lakers, and he went on with the Jazz a little bit. And OKC. Nothing against him as a guy, a basketball player, or anything, or even Jeff Hornacek. It just didn't seem like they were making basketball moves there. It seemed more, Phil Jackson respects you. Well, Phil Jackson also thinks he can use you as a pawn, maybe, to try to maybe coach from the sweep up top. And all of a sudden, he's bringing these guys in, and I'm like, Phil, I like you. I like you a lot. But you're making yourself look really, really bad bringing these guys in to coach the team that aren't really coaches. Yeah, coaching Phil Jackson, one of the best coaches in NBA history. You can argue about all that. That's not the time right now. But all he will say he's 1, 2, 3, whatever. It doesn't really matter. But going from the head coaching spot to a front office position, you can't use those same tactics. Phil Jackson brought in Ron Harper from Chicago to LA in the first 3 championships. I think Ron Harper was there the first 3 when Kobe and Shaq won, because he played with him. He knew the system. Learning the triangle is not easy. So I do understand Phil Jackson wanted to bring guys in that he's comfortable with, that will listen to him. But bro, you're not coaching anymore. These moves don't work. And it seems like even after Phil has left, they're making moves for basketball reasons that don't make any kind of sense.
Yeah, the decisions they've made, especially with Phil Jackson there, with the hiring of Derek Fisher, he has 0 coaching. He just finished playing, and then you're gonna hire him as the coach already? I understand he runs it, he knows the triangle and stuff, but that doesn't mean it's gonna work with this team. The triangle. Phil's had the luxury of running the triangle with the greatest players of all time. Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Shaq and Kobe. He had that luxury. It was a big difference when you were working with the guys we had in New York, and it was a disaster from the jump, and it showed. And then Phil was just a name. The Phil Jackson name, and it was at a point where James Dolan was just like, just hire whoever's the biggest name, just give him whatever. And Phil just never put the work in. He didn't scout at all. He put zero effort into scouting at all. I mean, there was reports of him sleeping at scouting reports with his scouts and stuff, and just not caring, and just showing up whenever he wanted, and that's not what you want in your head basketball of operations. You need a guy who's going to be able to go overseas to check out these guys, and go to these little colleges, and try to find a sleeper. He never put the work in it, and it showed. It was a disaster, and to allow him, another horrible thing the Knicks did, they allowed him to draft. The Frank Ntilikina draft. They allowed him to draft Ntilikina and then fire him right after that, when you could have had Donovan Mitchell. You could have had Donovan Mitchell, who just happens to be an all-star this year. You passed up on him, and they've passed up on endless guys. I could spend hours and hours of times of how many guys they have passed up on. But it's that the Phil Jackson era was rough. It's rough.
Yeah, that sounds very, very similar. I know it's a different sport, but to the Mitchell Trubisky Bears draft pick when you could have gotten Patrick Mahomes. I mean, it sounds very, very similar to that, where Chicago Bears, big market, crazy strong fan base, a fan base that's passionate just like the Knicks, a fan base that's been around, historic, that wants to win, that when they're good, everyone talks about it. Even when they're bad, the Bears are still on TV and they get good ratings, similar to the Knicks. But contrary to the Bears, the Knicks are not a team that's going to bring ratings to networks. ESPN, TNT, occasionally ABC. I don't even think the Knicks were on Christmas Day this year. And I can't remember the last time this was the case. I mean, I think even last year and years before, as the Knicks started to get worse and worse and worse, and that's some of the problems that we have already discussed and you pinpointed and talked about so well, as those points and as those issues got bigger. I remember, was it Charles Oakley and Dolan got into it? Was that right?
Oh, my God, yes. Charles Oakley. So that was another low point. Another low point in Knicks history.
Have you ever thought about making your own podcast? It seems like that's the in thing right now. Well, do I have the people for you? Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and extremely easy to use. And now, Anchor will match with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you can get paid for podcasting right away. To get started, go to anchor.fm/start. Once again, that's anchor.fm/start. Yeah, so I mean, like, as the things get worse and worse and worse, for some reason, ESPN or TNT want to just continue to put the Knicks on Christmas Day. Now, granted, it probably was the NBA scheduling the game for the name Knicks, Madison Square Garden. It's going to be sold out. You're going to get good ratings no matter what. But, I mean, I'm sure it's the same thing. But, man, I never thought the Knicks would be like this. There was a time in my life being a Pacers fan, especially when you guys had Carmelo Anthony. I wanted to watch the Knicks anytime they came to Indianapolis. Pacers and Knicks grew up being a crazy rivalry, and then afterwards it kind of simmered down. Didn't have the same kind of appeal that it used to. But once again, you got Carmelo. I don't care what side of the fence. I don't care if you like his game or you hate his game. I don't care if you like him as a person or you hate him as a person. It don't matter. You cannot deny that Carmelo Anthony is a good basketball player and will probably be a future Hall of Famer. You can't deny that. So when he comes to town, it's like, okay, Melo's in town. Yeah, I got my ticket. I'm going with whoever. Let's watch Melo hoop. And that's literally what happened. Knicks will come to town. I'm ready to watch Melo hoop, ready to watch Melo do his thing. I don't care who's on the Knicks right now. It don't matter to me. If they come to Indianapolis, they're not an appointment for me to take off work early and to go downtown to Bankers Life Field and to watch the game. Has it felt like that to you, to where people just don't want to go to games anymore?
Yeah, and there's a lot of things that goes with that. The whole New York thing, it's especially with Dolan and all that. It's crazy to think that we're Forbes #1, grossing franchise. And there's the Lakers who have won, 17 championships. Boston's won 15 whatever championships. The rise of the Warriors. And yet a team that has, I think, the worst record in the last 20 years is still, valued at around, I think, I don't know the exact number, but we're #1. I think at $4 or $5 billion. James Dolan could probably get $6-7 billion for the Knicks right now if he sold it, and I think that's what every Knicks fan wants him to do. But there's a thing, with New York. Obviously the glitz and the glamour. When people think New York, you think bright lights and all this, but I think we've sold that to guys as if that's what everyone wants, and not every basketball player wants that. Not every player wants to deal with the tabloids and all the newspapers, all the media. The media out here is it's big. It's big. There's numerous newspapers that will shred you apart, and you saw with Melo what he had to deal with, and they failed. Excuse me. They failed him. The Knicks failed him. They didn't put the pieces around. They had the 1 year in 2012. The #2 seed, and we ran into you guys, and Roy Hibbert blocked that shot. It still bothers me. I don't want to think about it anymore, but
I love it.
Oh man, and we thought, even in that season, we're disappointed we lost, but you thought, okay, we'll be back, and we haven't been back, and it's just been bad. I think it's 7 straight years, no playoffs, and it's just. The New York is not, it's not the free agent destination that everyone thinks it is, and this franchise keeps just going on the Garden, and you're gonna play in, at 34. You're gonna play at 34th Street. You're gonna play in the middle of Times Square, all the bright lights, and that doesn't appeal to everyone, and it's just, it's just what they keep telling these guys, and then no one's coming. No one's come. So, this got to change. You just can't rely on, New York, and New York City, and Madison Square Garden, because, but, they still get people that still come to the games. It's still the attendance is not as high as it was, because I still watch this team play, because, I want to see how the young guys do. But it's not as full. It's not as full, and it's the boos for Dolan, who goes to a lot of games, gets louder and louder, and it's just going to get louder. But he owns the team, and they're still the top grossing team. So there's no need for him to sell the team or anything. So I don't know.
I'm sitting here looking at your roster right now. Well, I say the New York Knicks roster. And I think one thing that this team could help teach other teams is the need to have more veteran players. There are only 3 players that have been on the current roster that have been in the NBA 8 years or longer. Taj Gibson, Marcus Morris, and then also Wayne Ellington. You can't have a team where you have guys, even if they're promising young talents, there are no vets on the team to help teach them how to be a pro. All around the NBA, and I've mentioned on my podcast about the OGs, or how guys said, "Oh, that's my rook," or "That's my vet." How these older guys in the NBA took guys under their wing, and they said, "Hey, rookie, don't do that. You want to be a pro? This is how you do it." And they literally walk them step by step on how to take care of their bodies, how to prepare for a basketball game, how to travel properly, how to properly leave family, how to properly get family away from those that are going to be trying to be taking their money and things like that. I think one thing with the Knicks, and this is just something that just popped in my head, but it's true, you can't have a team with just young talent. Or if you have young talent and they're in the NBA 4 or 5 or 6 years and you don't develop them, you're not just doing a disservice to yourself and the fans and the franchise, a disservice to that player as well. Because that player, you may want to trade him down the road and say, hey, he's trade bait. But if we don't develop him and he's not being a better player overall, you're doing him a disservice. So I don't know if you view it the same way, being more entrenched in Knicks basketball. But I'm looking at this. I mean, even you got a guy that's been in the league for 6 years, and Reggie Bullock. Nobody's going to look to him for advice. Nobody's going to look to him for help in late game situations, or oh man, a young guy dressed a certain way. Are you going to look and say, hey, Reggie Bullock, and if Reggie Bullock comes to you and says, hey young man, or hey Rook, don't dress like that. No, you're dressing the wrong way. Dress this way. I wouldn't look at Reggie Bullock. I don't know if you would, but he's one person that I'm like, hey man, don't talk to me. I don't care what you gotta say. I don't have the respect for you to have you come to me telling me what to do in the league right now. Am I crazy for that?
No, you're right. I mean, yeah, you have to be a good team. You know, you see the top teams. They have a good mixture of vets and good young talent. And the Knicks clearly don't have that. They didn't, and the veterans they did sign, you know, you wouldn't stay there. You know, maybe Todd Gibson. You know, he's been around a while and he's been on some good teams. But if he's not playing, you know, how good of a leader can you be if you're not playing? Yeah, you know, off the court, but you need that leadership on the court to be able to teach you, you know, why you should be here on this part of the court, why you need to set a screen here and not there, you know. And that's the thing, you know, they just, you know, their mix is just bad. It's an awful mix. And when they lost out in free agency to all the big free agents, and then they signed all these guys, it was just like they just signed guys like out of a hat. You know, there was no thought process. It was just, hey, let's just sign guys because we have money. We have all this money and we have no one to spend it on, so let's just get mad random guys, and not, you know, knowing that this is just not going to work. And this mix of young guys and old guys is just horrible. And it's shown, you know, obviously we're one of the worst teams in the league, so you know, that's shown that no, it hasn't worked at all.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't. There's a young guy in the NBA talking about teams that have young talent and guys that need players that need veteran leadership. There's a guy down in New Orleans that I think, if he gets the right veteran leadership and people to help him overall with his game, this young man can be crazy good. Yeah, we're expecting him, Zion Williamson. If people don't know who I'm talking about right now, Zion Williamson, we all expect him to be good. I'm not going to put the label of great just yet, but man, from what he's done so far, I know it's just 6 games. I know he's still literally learning the NBA game right before our eyes. We can't have our trajectory meter way too high just yet because he doesn't know what he's doing. He literally has no idea how to be a professional basketball player, how to travel like a pro. He is learning this stuff in January, where these guys have started this in mid-October. Zion's debut, I think it was on a Wednesday. I'll tell you my story here in a minute about his debut and what I saw that day. But when his debut that Wednesday, what did you think going into the game? And then when you saw him go off late in the game, I forget, was it 17 points in 3 minutes, whatever crazy it was. What were your thoughts after the game about Zion's debut?
I was so excited for Zion's debut. I think I told you, Jay, on when I had you on. I'm a big Duke Blue Devils fan, so I've been watching Zion since this first game at Duke, and you know I was super excited for his debut. You know, I was obviously worried about his knee, and I just wanted to I was just hoping that they didn't mess him up. He's one of the guys that I'm rooting for so much. And, you know, obviously he started slow in the game, you know, a little bit sluggish, you know, he wasn't moving the right way. And I was like, okay, you know, I was a little getting worried. But then, you know, we saw in that fourth quarter, he showed what he can be. He showed that why he's box office, and you know why he has all the potential to be that next generational player, to be that, you know, that Kobe Bryant, that LeBron James, that next guy to take, you know, that Giannis, to be able to take the NBA by storm and be the face of the league. He has all that potential, and you know, since that game, you know, he's shown it. But, you know, I was so excited for that game. I'm so happy that he, you know, that he was able to play good, and I wished he was able to finish, because I think he finished that game. I think they would have won that game, and that would have been even more special for him. But it was a great debut, and I'm rooting for him so much, and hopefully he stays healthy, and if he does, he has all the potential to be the face of the league.
He definitely does. That Wednesday of his debut against the Spurs, well, about a week and a half prior to that, whenever they announced that when his first game would be, I didn't really care about the day of the week. I looked for the opponent, and I saw, he's going up against the Spurs. Greg Popovich. This will be fun. And so that Wednesday night, I went to the Dayton Flyers basketball game, and they played St. Bonaventure that day. It's a couple-hour drive from Indianapolis to Dayton. So I drove over there after the game. I went to B-Dubs, met up with somebody, had a good time, ate some food, then left. Well, I'm there watching the game, and I'm thinking, Zion looks a little different than I expected. Now, granted, I know he's heavier. I understand that. He's 19 years old. Like I mentioned, played 6 games in the NBA so far. So he's still learning how to be a pro on right before our eyes. So we can't. I knock him for his weight just because I'm very, very critical of very, very good talents. That's just me, my nature. But I'm not going to be like, oh, Zion's going to be heavy his whole career. I don't believe that at all. But he looked heavier. He looked a little sluggish. It looked like he was not ready for the pace. But once again, these guys have been playing 30, 40 games by this time. So this is his game one. They're already in game shape. He's trying to get in game shape and also trying to win the game at the same time. So while I'm at B-Dubs, I'm sitting here like, man, Zion, you're not impressing me. I mean, now, like I mentioned, I'm very, very critical. Sometimes people say overcritical, but he wasn't impressing me. I kind of backed away a little bit, realized he's new. He's 19. He doesn't know what to do in the NBA. College is different. It was more free flowing. I mean, dude, he's bigger, faster, stronger than literally everybody out there. So it's not that hard with his explosiveness, his ability to get from end to end with his size at the speed that he does. It's a whole lot different than the NBA, where you're used to bodying guys or pushing guys around. You can push some of these NBA guys around, but almost every team has one guy out there that's going to try to muscle you. So I'm thinking, okay, cool, whatever, man. And then I ended up leaving B-Dubs either halftime or in the third quarter. I said, hey, I got to go home. I got a 2-hour drive. I'm gone. So I drove back home. Well, when I get home, I go on Twitter, and a couple of my buddies are like, Zion did what? Zion go off? I'm like, hold on, stop. The last time I saw Zion Williamson play in this game, he wasn't doing nothing. And then I realized 17 points in 3 minutes. The rest is history. That game, I think what Greg Popovich did, and I talked to one of my buddies that I've had on my podcast about it, I told him, Greg Popovich was letting Zion shoot threes. He said, hey, if this guy's going to beat me, I'm not going to let him get to the basket. He can shoot the 3-ball all he wants to, because his 3-ball is not as nice or not as efficient as him getting to the hole and being explosive. I'm like, okay, cool, Zion, whatever, man. But, man, let me tell you, when that young man got it going, Greg Popovich didn't change. I'm thinking, Pop, what are you doing? Eventually, you have to change up, make adjustments just to not let the guy keep doing it. But he kept going, and he kept shooting. And I look at his stats right now. This is probably the most alarming thing, most surprising yet good thing for me. 22 points in game one, then 15 points, 21 points, 14 points, 24 points, and 21 points. The best thing that I like about Zion, and he's only made 3-point shots in his first game against the Spurs. The next 2 games, he shot 1 3-pointer apiece. The rest, no 3-point shots. And I think he's realizing if his bread and butter is going to be down low, yeah, the 3-ball may be there, but it's nice, especially in the NBA, in a league where guys are shooting the 3-ball at a crazy clip all over the place, that he's getting away from the 3-point shot. And he has 2 double-doubles right now, and he has no games of single-digit points. I think with Zion Williamson, I'll let you have a point about this here in a second. I think with Zion Williamson, one thing that there's a couple things he needs. One, he needs a vet. I literally just need some guy. I don't care if it's an old school guy, but he needs a vet to come, take him under his wing and say, hey, young man, you had the potential to be great. Here's how you can do it, and walk him step by step to see exactly what Zion needs to do to be great and to be a great basketball player every single year, continuing to get better. And then also, not just a vet, and it's just me being very, very critical, his coaches need to help him find a nutritionist, because it seems like with his body, I don't know what he's eating. I'm not saying that I don't know much. I don't know anything about the man. Never met the man. Never nothing. Never watched the man play a game live. Nothing like that. But from what I see with my eyes, and from what a lot of people see that are analysts on television, that are fans like us, Zion needs somebody to help him get his weight under control. Because if that man can drop 20 pounds to go 6'6", 265 instead of 6'6", 285, the sky could be the limit. And I sure hope nobody pushes him to shoot the three-point ball at a high clip. I don't like that kind of basketball, but I sure hope he goes ahead and says, hey, my bread and butter is going to be down low in the paint, down there at the block, get a few moves that I do at a high clip and nobody can stop him. Man, the sky could be the limit for this young man. What do you think Zion, I know it went a bit longer than I thought, but what do you think Zion, a couple things Zion could do to be the best pro that he can be down the road?
Exactly what you said. Take advantage of the low post. I mean, it's the lost art. I mean, there's not a lot of guys that take advantage of that low post, and so far he's done that. And just that should be his bread and butter. Just do that. You know, that's just take advantage of that. He's so much bigger than most guys in the league. You know, there's not a lot of guys that are big that he's going to be scared of down low. You know, even though he's not tall, he's 6'6", 6'7", but he's going to bully most guys down low. So just take advantage. I don't understand why more guys don't do that. You know, just play that Z-Bowl ball. I love Zach Randolph. I love that he was so low center of gravity and, below the rim type player. We need to. And just to think, he has Z-Bowl in him, but he has a 40, he has a 40-plus inch vertical. So, he needs to stay in there. If the three's there, if Stafford to give you like the Spurs are giving him, take it. But just go down low and just keep taking advantage of that. Get that, take high percentage shots. I mean, like I said, everyone's so getting crazy with the threes, and it's cute and it's the new era. But sometimes you got to go play old school '90s ball and just go down low and just get easy points. I think we get they get so lost in not taking these 3 points, but just take the easy shot for him. And like I said, with his weight, yeah. I don't want him to become Sean Kemp. That's a lot of or Charles Barkley at the end of his career, and I think a lot of people have compared him to those two. And I don't think I think his work ethic's way better than those two. So I don't think, and I think he's putting in the work to get to play at a lighter level. Play around 260. I think that'd be it. If he gets to 260, I think he's currently weighed in at 285. Maybe he's a little less. I would think he'd be less by now. But if he gets to 260, 255, man, he's gonna be scary. There's no one that's gonna want to. He might be even stronger if he gets to that too, because he'll be more quicker, he'll be more leaner, and he's already built like a tank. So, but imagine him being a little quicker and to get and. He's gonna be if he works on just attacking down low, taking advantage of these more skinnier guys that he could, they may be 7 foot tall, but they're 210 pounds. Just take advantage. Just play bully ball, and he'll get 20 and 10 without even trying, And then eventually, then you could develop your jump shot. Giannis is took a few years before he developed a shot. And LeBron James wasn't a great jump shooter originally. It's gonna take time, but get your easy points, and then little by little you develop a nice little a respectable jump shot, and take it from there. But he works. He's already off to a good start. But those little things will come, and and he'll be fine.
Yeah, I think he'll be good. He's just learning. He's literally learning. We're critical. We analyze things on a regular basis. There's a guy here we're analyzing. A lot of people forget. Yeah, he's big. He has grown man size at 19 years old. And people just realize he's not just a rookie. He's a 19-year-old rookie. And look across the landscape of the league, a lot of your rookies are 19 or 20 years old. So he's not just a special case. No, a lot of these guys, one-and-done guys, they're coming in 19 years old because they say, oh, we can get millions. But that's just the landscape of the league right now. So Zion, man, the sky is a limit. But we could go on about this forever. But Zion, a special talent, generational talent. And I didn't think going into Duke, I know going back a little bit, a couple years, I didn't know going into Duke he was going to be that. I had no idea. Because you're playing against, in the YouTube videos, Instagram videos, that's the only place I saw Zion. All I saw was dunks. My man's coming down on fast breaks or even on secondary breaks or even like regular half-court sets. Oh, I'm dunking on you. But the guys he was playing, they're way smaller than he is.
Yeah. We talked about that last time. These kids are real little, like 5'4" kids that probably won't even sniff varsity basketball, you know. And so that's what made a lot of people question, was like, all right, he can dunk, and you know he became famous off that, but does he have anything more? But then that's what's important about coaching too, because he went to Duke. You know, I know he was between, he's from South Carolina, so I think he's picking Clemson, South Carolina, and Duke. And honestly, I remember when he was deciding where he went to school, and obviously, like I said, I'm a Duke fan, and I didn't even watch his thing because there wasn't even like, I didn't think he was going to Duke. There was people saying he was going to Clemson. So I'm like, whatever, and I finally get the alert, and I'm like, he chooses Duke, and at this point, R.J. Barrett had already committed, Cam Reddish committed, and Trey Jones committed. So they didn't really need Zion. They were fine as is, and they got Zion. I'm like, oh, this is. I think he looked at it as he's gonna be coached by Coach K. And that's valuable. Is if you're going to go to college for a year, might as well go with Coach K, who's been around, you know, the best of the best basketball-wise, and his knowledge of basketball is, you know, tremendous. He's, you know, coached by Bob Knight, and you know, Team USA. You know, he's won so many gold medals. You know, coached the greatest of the greats, and I think that was the best thing that happened to him, because Coach K, you know, showed him that, okay, that's cool, you could dunk, but we need to show people that you're more than just a dunker, that you can pass. We should have mentioned that. He's a tremendous passer already.
He is.
He could pass. He has potential to be a LeBron James-esque passer. And, you know, with his athletic ability, I think he could be a great defender too. You know, that he showed that, you know, at Duke, and that, you know, he played the passing lanes great. You know, he showed that, okay, I'm more, the dunks are cool, and that's cool for SportsCenter and, you know, all these, you know, ball is life and all that, you know, overtime, that's cool for that, but I could do way more, you know, tremendous rebounder, you know, he's an exceptional passer, could be a lockdown defender one day, I think. You know, he showed, you know, with good coaching, that they show that, you can do a lot more. Now, he has to work on free throws, too. That's another thing he has to work on. So he's shooting below 50%. That's one thing. He was poor at Duke, and he needs to do that, too. But, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, Chris, before we get out of here, I got 9 quick questions. I want you to give me the first thought that comes into your mind whenever you hear the question or the phrase that I'm going to say, and then I'll give you some time at the end after this to promote your show. Number 1, what do you enjoy most about podcasting?
Oh man, just first talking about sports and stuff, and just the interactions with, you know, like, you know, I've gotten to talk to you a few times, and you know, just the networking. I mean, it's just fun, you know, planning a show, and, you know, be able to get people to come on the show and just talk, and, you know, it's just fun. I just love the whole process.
Favorite basketball player?
Favorite basketball player, currently or of all time?
Both.
Currently, I'll go with my favorite of all time. Tracy McGrady and Allen Iverson. Those are my favorite all time. Right now, this guy is not a typical of people who say their favorite player, but Montrezl Harrell. I just love his style. I just love his style of basketball. It's just fun.
I can get down with that. What's your most memorable game you've been to, or your favorite game you've been to?
Favorite game I've been to? Let's see. I went to a Yankee game, 2009. This was the ALCS. This is the year they won the World Series. Game 2, they won in extra innings on an error from second base, and they scored. That was probably my favorite sporting event to go to.
A place you want to go, but you have never been. This does not have to be about sports. It could be anything in life.
Greece.
Favorite vacation spot?
Favorite vacation spot? Puerto Rico.
If you could pick one network and one job that you would like to have in sports, what network would it be, and then what job would it be?
I would work for ESPN, and I would work with Mike Breen.
Oh, the New York Knicks play-by-play man.
Yeah. That's my guy, Mike Breen.
Okay. Dude, he's phenomenal. I had no idea that he did Knicks play-by-play when I first heard of him. But then when I realized him and I think it was Walt Clyde Frazier do games together, I'm like, oh man, that's a dynamic duo right there. Two guys that are good at talking basketball. Then you got Clyde over there just dressing and doing whatever he wants to do, man.
I met Clyde walking in the city one day. He was a cool dude.
He seems like it. A game you'd love to attend. Talking about postseason wise, so series, any kind of series, any kind of game. What kind of series would you like to go to that you would love to attend?
A Knicks NBA Finals.
Okay, I'll try to hold in my laughter, but it's kind of coming out.
I don't know if that's gonna happen. Maybe in 2K. It's happened in 2K a few times for me. So maybe in real life it can happen one day.
Yeah, because in 2K you can change the ratings. You can make all your players 99, and you can just basically run the table.
82-0, 16-0 in the playoffs.
This next one's going to tie you into that. When will the Knicks get it together?
Oh, I mean, good management. Whenever they decide to hire good management, and that's the key to any successful franchise. Is good management, you know. And, yeah, that's pretty much, man. They get good management, they can finally get this thing going.
Last question. You and I talked about it when I was on your podcast recently. Give me a Kobe Bryant memory.
Oh, man, there's so many Kobe Bryant memories. But, I mean, his last game was... that was just epic. I mean, I remember he was on TNT with Shaq, and Shaq was like, yo, Kobe, I need you to give me 50. And Kobe laughed it off like, man, I can't do that no more. Like, that's not going to happen. And then he did it. 61 points. I mean, yeah, that's probably my favorite Kobe moment.
A game we will always remember. Take a few moments right now. Promote your show, your podcast. Tell people where they can find you on social media and where they can listen to your podcast.
Yes, so you guys can go on Off the Ball podcast on my show's based in Anchor. It's on Anchor. You can go on Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast. It's available on. You can follow me on Instagram at Off the Ball Pod, Twitter at Off the Ball Pod, pretty much Facebook Off the Ball Pod, everything Off the Ball Pod. So that's everything right there.
Chris, I really appreciate it. Really appreciate you coming on. I know we I know we had more topics, but when we get going about things that we love, the one topic can go a whole lot longer than planned. Would love to have you on. I know it's a little pre-planning, but I would love to have you on maybe down the road, NBA playoff time, talk about things, beginning of the playoffs, to say, hey, this is what we're projecting. This is how things have been going on. But Chris, I really appreciate it, man. Really appreciate you taking time to hop on the podcast with me.
No doubt, man. Thank you for having me on, Jay.
And that's all she wrote. Once again, I want to thank and appreciate Chris Lebron for coming on, taking time out of his busy day, his busy schedule, for coming on and talking about basketball with me. Really enjoyed it. Basketball conversations are special, especially with me being in Indiana, growing up in Indiana. Basketball to some people here is a religion. I mean, literally. From October nowadays, from October through June, whenever the NBA is over, it's all about basketball. They live and breathe basketball. It's different. And so when I get to talk about basketball with someone else, basketball is a special part in me, a special place in me. And those of you that know me personally know this time of year, I'm at basketball games all the time. Now, if you follow me on Twitter, you see a lot of pictures at high school gyms, and I've had some people that I know that follow me say, hey, man, those gyms are always full. What is this? This ain't normal. Well, in Indiana, it is normal. Basketball here is supposed to be full, supposed to be live, supposed to be loud, supposed to be good fundamental play, good jump shot, good form, and all those types of things. We think about basketball play in Indiana. So basketball conversations are special. They're enjoyable, and I really appreciate Chris coming on to have a great conversation with basketball, about basketball with me. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Jay Stevens Podcast. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at Dr_J25, which again, that is at Dr_JAY, the number 2 and the number 5. Remember to always subscribe, rate, and review. It's a great way for people that are searching for new podcasts to listen to come across this one. Then remember to always get the word out about the podcast via word of mouth. The things that we enjoy in life, we are more willing and somewhat wired to tell other people about. So no matter if this was your first episode or if you have been listening since episode 1, be sure to let people know about the podcast. It's been episode 64 of the Jay Stevens Podcast. I'll see you next time.